Hi, it's Alexis Hasselberger, time management and productivity coach. Today, I want to share a calendar strategy with you. But first, I want to tell you a little story and see if it resonates with you. So, let's just pretend that you have done a calendar audit, right? You have looked at your meetings, you have decided which ones could be removed, which ones you could send somebody else in your stead, which ones could be shortened, which ones could be reduced in frequency, and you feel like you've got a good thing going. You've reduced the number of meetings on your calendar and you feel like you've clawed back some of that time for yourself. And then what happens, right? All of a sudden, there are just more meetings filling up those spots, right? That time that you painstakingly protected is not protected anymore because people have just slapped new meetings in there. Or maybe you have even done it to yourself. I know this has happened to a lot of my clients that they have done a meeting audit, felt really good about it. And then not too long later, all of that time they protected was just filled up with more meetings, right? It can sometimes feel like our calendar is just, entropy incarnate, right? And this is just kind of the nature of things. Stuff will happen, more stuff will come on our calendar. And so when we've done a meeting audit, when we've taken the time to actually see what's worth being on our calendar and what isn't, and we've spent that time, we've maybe, bolstered up our confidence to make some suggestions and experiments and get other people on board, we don't want that work to go to nothing, right? We don't want that work to just have been for nothing at all. And so we need an extra step here. And this is a strategy that I call advance and protect. And it's kind of I think of it almost like a warlike strategy. I mean, I hate using that like words are terrible, but it's like, that's how I think about it. I think of it as like, we have to advance our territory and then we have to protect it. And so what do I mean by this? I mean that when you have clawed back some time, when you have removed a meeting, instead of leaving that time open on your calendar, immediately block it off. Block it off ongoing and into the future as do not schedule or private or like something else that is vague enough that other people will not just like slap a meeting right in there and take that time back. What we want to do is make sure that any time that we are clawing back from our meeting schedule, that we are keeping for our own uses, that we're not just letting it go back into the ether and be picked up for other meetings. So this is something that you can do anytime you have a meeting that has been, or you have time that's kind of appeared back on your calendar, whether that's a result of a calendar audit or not. And we can also do this kind of specifically. So what I would suggest is, let's say you have a monthly meeting or you have a weekly meeting and you've somehow managed to get everybody to do it weekly or monthly instead of weekly, right? For those other three instances, literally put a recurring calendar block on your calendar that says do not schedule or private during that time, so that then you can use that to do the work you actually need to do instead of having it be usurped by other meetings, right? Or you might say, you know what, I want to block off significant amounts of time that I want to block out for good. And I did this several years ago when I decided that I was going to have no meeting Mondays. Like I wasn't going to have any meetings on Mondays. But at the time I had lots of meetings on Mondays because, my clients were on Mondays and, my schedule was just open. I would let people book on my calendar anytime that I was working. So anytime between 9 and 5 on weekdays, like I would let that be open and people could book wherever. And so when I realized that I wanted to block that time off for deep work, I started first by slowly moving things off of Mondays, right? And I did this in collaboration with other people. I didn't just unilaterally change things, but anytime I, got a new client, I would not put them on a Monday. Anytime I had a client or something that was recurring on Mondays, I worked with the person to see if we could move that off. Or maybe if I just had a few sessions left with them, I would leave it on, but then I wouldn't add anybody else. So remove the stuff from Monday. And then I blocked out Mondays just out into the future forever so that no new stuff could show up on a Monday. And after a couple of months, stuff had cycled out of Mondays. And because I had this calendar block, now nobody could schedule on my Mondays, right? So now Monday is protected and Monday remains protected. It's the day that I make these videos. It's the day that I write my weekly blog posts. It's the day that I make online courses. Like it is the day that I do content and deep work. And that's worked out really well for me. But the only way I was able to do that is because when I moved those meetings off of it, I didn't put more meetings on it. And more specifically, not only did I not put more meetings on Mondays, I made sure that no one could put time on Mondays. Now, will you make an exception to this? Do I sometimes make an exception to this? Yes, I do. Very occasionally, I will make an exception. And it's usually to teach a workshop to a company where their schedule is really tight and they needed it to be on a certain day, something like that. Probably only happens a couple of times a year though, right? I'm human. I'm not someone who is like going to be, okay, once I've done this, I am never going to make an exception at all. And you probably can't do that either. Most of us live in the real world with other people, and we need to make exceptions from time to time. But the fact that the other 50 weeks out of the year, there's nothing scheduled on Monday is really, really helpful because now that time is protected for me. And so you don't have to block off a whole day. You could start with 1 hour, you could start with one afternoon. But what I would encourage you to do is anytime something comes off of your calendar, especially if it's recurring, immediately block that time out into the future as do not schedule or private or whatever it is that is going to make it so that people think twice before they try to schedule something in that time. Advance and protect. Think of your calendar as something that you advance and protect. And if you like this type of content and you want more of it, then please go ahead and subscribe so that I'll be in your feeds every week.
Just like she said, make sure to subscribe because only about 20% of the people that watch our videos are actually subscribed. So it'd be a big help if you were to subscribe. Thank you.